Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. This is Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you locally by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harris Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. Geoff Mosher going to join me for today's Football at 4. All right, Moshe, let's dive into a bunch of stuff here. Jalen Hurts last night got off to a slow start. Interception, not his fault. Fumble, probably his fault. Gets chewed out on the sideline. And then really turns it around, maybe his best bounce back, considering the Minshew stuff hanging over his head. Hadn't played in over 2 weeks. There was a lot on the line for him last night. There was
a lot. I mean, division. He also, you didn't mention, but I'm sure this goes into the pot that he was he had not beaten an NFC East team going into that game, and that made that game really important. You couldn't fall to 0-3 and really kind of expect that you're going to go 3-0 the rest of your slate against the same division teams that you've lost to all the time. So everything was on the table for him. Played well, shaky start, no doubt about it. Took the constructive criticism on the sideline there from Nick Sirianni. Made some nice throws. The run game is obviously what won them the game. I really enjoyed the play. I thought the play calling was good, and I liked the sequence to me that really won it was after the Washington scored a touchdown, and then they get the 34-yarder, which is really just kind of a screen to Reagor. He turns upfield quickly, and then what a beautiful catch by Greg Ward. I mean, to be able to respond there with a touchdown after giving up a touchdown and making that game tight was really – that was like a total team. Jalen made good plays. Reagor caught the ball. Greg Ward made a great catch. There was excellent blocking on the screen for Reagor. The offensive line ran the ball, and running backs ran the ball well. That was a real total team right there.
Yeah, and I know that the running game is a big one. 41 carries, over 230 yards in the game. Sanders, Howard, that duo really just kind of put the game to rest. But Hurts, 20 of 26, almost 300 yards. I really thought the running game, but the use of Goddard. We've talked so much this year about getting Goddard more involved. Minshew got him involved, and Hurts said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, and Goddard said, "Here, hold my beer," a couple of times because he almost didn't seem to want the ball. I mean, there were 2 screens that, my God, I can only imagine what he would have finished with if he had just caught the ball and headed upfield, because both of those screens looked very well developed, and it looked like there was a lot of green ahead of him. And I'm a little bit bitter because I lost my fantasy first round by 1 point, and I had Goddard. So if he catches any one of those, I win easily because it's 1 point for the catch and then however many yards. But nonetheless, it was a good connection. It was an important connection. And yes, and as we speak, LaRaven Clark is now on the COVID-19 list. So I'm sure we'll get into that.
Yep.
But yeah, I thought that connection was – look, Mike, I think that – and we've talked about this over these next 3 games, depending on who's available, of course. The pass offense should go through Dallas Goedert. Devontae Smith's great. I'm not trying to knock the kid, but Goddard is your weapon right now that is really hard to defend because you can play him all over the field. And to me, that's where it's got to go. It's got to be Goddard 1, Devontae Smith 2, and anybody else who contributes is great, but that's where your pass offense should go through.
You just mentioned some of the COVID stuff, so let's deal with that real quick because obviously a big one, Nick Sirianni, is symptomatic, and that would seem to be possible that he may not be ready to go for Sunday against the Giants with only 5 days to go. But you would imagine he coached the game last night. He's in there with a lot. I would imagine more names are going to start rolling out here pretty shortly, wouldn't you?
Yes. I mean, I guess the troubling trend is 2 things. One, now that we know that LaRaven Clark is on the COVID list, he's now the 3rd offensive lineman in 3 or 4 days with Landon Dickerson and Andre Dillard. So you're concerned, A, about depth at that position. You're concerned that if it's got 3 offensive linemen in 4 days, that maybe some other offensive linemen may come down with this as well. So we'll see. And then obviously with Nick Sirianni, I mean, he's your head coach. He's done a nice job here over the last 6-7 weeks, turning things around. He's not going to be there. You know, the Saints were without Sean Payton, and he's as good as they come, and they still beat the defending Super Bowl champ Buccaneers. Now, they had some help in the Bucs losing Godwin and Fournette and some others. but they did play well without their head coach because they had a veteran like Dennis Allen who'd been a head coach before. With the Eagles, you're looking at, Shane Steichen, never been a head coach. Kevin Patullo is really kind of a pass game specialist. Jonathan Gannon, first-time play caller himself. So you worry a little bit about their ability to kind of take the reins if Nick Sirianni can't be back. But the secondary worry is that the head coach is always kind of around a lot of people. So you wonder if just in general, I know they were outside last night, but he got in Jalen's face in an argument. You just worried now, how much is this thing going to spread around the team?
Yeah, that's a big one is, by the way, he was in the face of his quarterback last night, giving him the business, and you wonder all that. The quarterback room, he's probably around Minshew. He's probably around Hurts. That wouldn't be surprised if you read that those two guys had something going down. Other injury news, Mailata's up on the injury report that just popped out today, as is Miles Sanders. Jordan Mailata, ankle, did not practice. Miles Sanders, no, this is just a estimation. They didn't practice. They had a kind of a weightlifting thing today. But Sanders quad, Mailata ankle, Howard knee, that would not be good.
Wonder if Miles hurt his quad carrying Jalen Reagor on his back on social media there. Because he's getting – I'm not killing Miles for that. I'm just making a joke because, Miles, I think, did a good thing that a player can do, which is come to the defense of a teammate. But obviously that gets you a lot of backlash on social media from the fans. So he's taking the bullet for Jalen Reagor.
Hey, let's talk about that offensive line because I asked the question earlier in the show, and I want to get your opinion on this. Like, what does Jeff Lurie think about this team right now? They're 7-7. They're clearly in a playoff race. I would imagine they're a little bit further along than they thought. They don't have this star quarterback. They don't have this elite passing game. So when he sits down at night, does he say, man, we're in good shape. We're 7-7. We got 3 first-round picks. Is he not happy that they're kind of in the middle here? What do you think Jeff Lurie thinks about where this team is?
If one thing Jeffrey Lurie has shown is that he's in the moment, he can enjoy something like this. And I think he would hold this team to a different standard than the 2018 team that had to win a game in Green Bay by running instead of passing. I think he holds this team to a different standard because it's in transition and all the reasons you just mentioned. I think he can appreciate it. But at the same time, when the offseason comes, I think he has the ability to step back and look at it in a bigger picture with Howie Roseman and with Nick Sirianni and say, well, is this what we are going to be now? And I can't imagine that he feels that that's what they're going to be for the rest of the year. I mean, this is nice. They're running for a lot of yards. They are winning more games now, but they still haven't beat a pretty good team. Well, New Orleans is a pretty good team, but I think there's a difference when they've got Trevor Siemian in as to now with Taysom Hill. The Broncos are a decent team. I just don't think that Jeffrey Lurie will look at this unless they really run the table here and then maybe win a playoff game and say that this is the most viable way to build the team and operate the team going forward. I don't think he will think that.
You look around and you say, why is this team winning? Well, they have a really good run game. Why do they have a really good run game? I mean, they have a really good offensive line. They're to their third left guard, their third right guard. They've really stockpiled that position and done a really good job. And we may have touched on this in the past, but I know he wants this passing attack, but is this league kind of ripe for a team to say, your defense is built to stop the pass? We're going to build a team with offensive line, cheap running backs, cheap quarterback, and try to stop that.
The problem is the evidence will show you that type of team can only go so far. And Jeffrey Lurie's big in data and analytics, and he's going to take what you just said and say, that's great. And that got the Tennessee Titans to the conference championship game a couple of years ago, and it got them a 17-point lead against the Chiefs. And then all of a sudden they were down by 17 points by the end of the game because the Chiefs had a wicked passing offense. And I'm sure he's going to say the same about the Ravens, winning 14 games with a running quarterback and a rush offense, and then not really being able to win a Super Bowl. And who won the Super Bowl last year? It was Tom Brady with all his passing weapons. And who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? Is it going to be the Patriots in their running game? Is it going to be?
Well, Fournette had a pretty big playoff run last year.
Leonard Fournette did have a big playoff run, but really at the end of the day, Tom Brady I think he threw 3 touchdowns in the game against Green Bay. I mean, it's Tom Brady and his weapons. That's what people will look at. And they'll say that their run game is an extension of having to defend all those passes in light boxes. So at the end of the day, I still think that they're going to want more of a dynamic passing offense. And I don't know until we see a run-first type team win it all that anybody's going to jump on that bandwagon that's the way you want to be.
Yeah, it just and Geoff and I are going to do the State of the Eagles on Friday. We will kind of go over that, where this team is with the offensive line. And you say that because I was bringing this up the other day. Like, you're watching Justin Fields struggle, Zach Wilson struggle. You're watching Trey Lance doesn't get on the field. I would imagine when he did, he wasn't playing very well. He struggled. Even Trevor Lawrence has struggled. These teams that reach for quarterbacks because they need to get a quarterback in their head, and it just throws their franchise back 4 or 5 years again. They're just perpetually in this, we need a quarterback, so they just grab a guy who probably shouldn't be drafted where he is, but because you need one, maybe these teams start to say, much like the running back, you know what, let's build our team and then try to find a quarterback somewhere down the line so we don't have to pay these guys that much. Because what happens in Tennessee? They pay Tannehill. Well, all of a sudden the rest of the team can't get paid, so now that team hits mediocrity. Wilson wins a Super Bowl, and then you have to pay him. Well, then you can't pay anybody else.
There you go. The problem isn't wanting a good quarterback. I agree with you on that. I mean, I think teams are always going to look to get a great quarterback, and I still think you have to have a pretty darn good one, if not a great one, to win a Super Bowl. The issue is teams, and they've been doing this for years, teams acknowledge that they take quarterbacks higher than they should because they know somebody else will. It's a weird kind of rat race where I've got to make a mistake to avoid somebody else making that mistake before I do.
Right.
And that's what gets to this. I'm going to trade from 3 to 2 to get Mitchell Trubisky when, or Daniel Jones, I'm going to pick at 6 when he's probably a second round grade, things of that nature. And it gets you at some level of stability that you're hoping to get, but not enough. And in some cases you're just wrong. And you're pressing the reset button. Like, you could say the Jets shouldn't have taken Zach Wilson number 2. That was too high for him. But if they had just stayed with Sam Darnold, they'd be in no better spot today. Darnold was not very good, and he was injured all the time. So really what they've got to do is make that risk. But it shows you the most important thing to do is, if you're going to do that, is to hit on your other draft picks and build your running game and defense up to be able to support your learning quarterback.
Right. Well, it's like the Eagles have now this offensive line. They have a really good run game. They have Goddard, who they got in the second round. They've got Smith, who they got in the first round. They can run. They have 3 picks next year, and it's like, do we just have a quarterback that can win? Maybe he's not the reason we win, but if we just keep putting more talent around guys like that, is that a good enough recipe? I don't know. Are we finding that out about Hurts?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think you can put both sides of the argument to the test. You could say, man, look what we've been able to do.
Well, I only bring it up like this, Moshe, too. There's only a Brady. There's one Rodgers. I feel like everybody drafts these guys thinking we're getting the next quarterback that's going to change the dynamics of the league, and that just doesn't happen. So I don't understand why these teams keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen at the rate that coaches want it to happen and organizations want it to happen.
But another big thing is
the Chiefs feel pretty good about taking Mahomes in top 10, and I'm sure the Chargers feel pretty good about getting.
Did you see the story today that I guess McAdoo, he was really pushing hard to get Mahomes?
For what team?
When he was with the Giants. Apparently he was all about Mahomes. He wanted to get Mahomes. But it's almost, too, what team gets him? If Zach Wilson plays in New England, is he a complete bust right now? Probably not. It's that Saleh and his team, they should understand, hey, we don't have the right coaching staff to deal with a guy like this. So let's take a player that works with what we do. I feel like the NFL is a league where you need to trust the coaching staff and the coaching scheme more than the players, because the difference in level of talent of players is so minute. So that better preparation, scheme, and coaching beats better talent.
I do think that you're seeing a trend now over the last few years, but more so this year, of teams being more recognizable of that when they don't have the elite quarterback that they thought they had, switching then to the ground game. I mean, you mentioned the Patriots doing it now with Mac Jones, who might be wind up being, he's a rookie. You've been seeing Kevin Stefanski do that for the last 2 years since he became Browns coach with Baker Mayfield. Baker is limited in many ways, so he runs the ball really well with Chubb and with Kareem Hunt. And Minnesota runs the ball a lot with Dalvin Cook. And, of course, Tennessee started this years ago with Ryan Tannehill. They like Ryan Tannehill, but they also know if he throws the ball 40 times a game, it's a bad situation for them. So they run it with Derrick Henry. So I feel like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, teams were still reluctant to do that. If they had a mediocre quarterback, their thought was, we're just going to make them better by throwing more reps. So you are seeing a little bit of a counter to that philosophically. I agree with you. I just don't know that the philosophy of still trying to get that quarterback high in the draft is going to change much.
Yeah. I just, last night I thought Hurts played a pretty good game, and it made me feel like, you know what? Can I win a Super Bowl with this guy? I'm not sure. But I can get Aaron Rodgers. I only have one Super Bowl. I might have Aaron Rodgers and still only win one Super Bowl. So
yeah, but I mean that's I don't think teams think that way, Mike. I mean, obviously, Phillip Rivers never won any Super Bowls. He was a great pick. You would make that pick 1,000 times out of 1,000. He didn't win a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger's been a great quarterback. He's only won 2 Super Bowls. If we're going to only say only one, two is only one more than one, but that's still great.
I know.
I mean, once Tom Brady is over, and at some point it's going to happen. It's going to be a free-for-all.
Yeah.
Unless somebody else emerges. Maybe it's Mahomes who just
I think the point that I'm making is the Eagles have this unique situation where they're 7-7. They might make the playoffs, and they have 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Don't blow the situation where you have a chance to add 3 very talented players because you want to go reach on a quarterback. Because there's no given that any of these quarterbacks is going to be any more – give you a better chance than the guy you already have.
Well, but that's your kind of, no offense, because a lot of people feel this way.
Yeah.
And people sitting in my seat too. That's your 50,000 feet from above take on it. That these guys in the draft are just as much of they may evaluate any of these 3 guys and see boundless potential and say, that guy sees the field. That guy can't run like Jalen. He's pretty good, but he sees the field. And with our running game and our offensive line, he can be a better option and make those plays that take us from 7 to 8 wins to 11 or 12. And if they do that, that's on them. Like I'm just sitting here, as an unbiased guy saying, I can see them. They've got the bird in the hand, as you say, with Jalen Hurts, but there may be that guy available in free agency or trade, or maybe there's a guy in a draft that when they look at him, they feel that guy has boundless potential. Now, you might think that that's more of a reach. They may disagree with you, and you're like saying don't do it. They're going to do it if that's how they think.
Oh, I know.
I
know. It's just frustrating to see the team winning with, quite frankly, not a lot of talent right now on the offensive side of the ball. They're really doing it with an offensive line, 1 receiver, and a tight end. I mean, this is a pretty basic offense that they're running. And you're showing that with a very basic offense. Now, you mentioned a good point. They really haven't beaten a team. But quite frankly, there's not many teams in this league to beat that are any good.
There really aren't. And they unfortunately had to play them all in the first 6 weeks of the year when they were kind of still finding themselves. So it's hard to say whether or not any of those games would have been different had they used this philosophy back then. I'm not sure that they would have, but who knows? I mean, I feel like and then listen, everybody's so week to week. It's great. It was a good win. Absolutely. This team was the same team that lost to the Giants a couple weeks ago, inexcusably. So to sit here after yesterday's win and talk about the future and what they should do because of what they have now, we might be having a conversation next week if they lose to the Giants again, or in 2 weeks if they lose to Washington, saying this team really needs upgrades in a lot of areas. Because that's what we were saying after the Giants game.
Geoff Mosher, we will be giving you the state of the Eagles on Friday. We'll go a little deeper into where they are. We'll talk a little bit about that Giant game and how important it is and all that stuff. That'll be on Friday at 4 o'clock, the state of the Eagles with Geoff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com. You guys will be back on Sunday with another Inside the Birds pregame show, a 5-day turnaround for your crew as well. That's on the YouTube channel and all the Inside the Birds social media platforms. All right. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'll talk to you in the new year. Friday, we will do the State of the Eagles, so we will talk then, Geoff Mosher.
All right, look forward to it, Mike. Have a good one.
All right, that's Geoff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com.